Welcome to the Trailblazing Texas podcast, where we embark on a journey through our diverse Texas landscapes and breathtaking trails while always engaging with our amazing Texas hiking community. So settle in, tighten up those bootlaces, and get ready for the thrilling tales awaiting for you on this episode.
Let's see. Let's do national parks first,
And if you have the correct national park, we will continue with the podcast. If you say the wrong national park, we will end the podcast.
Luckily, I think we are very much aligned. It has to be
Yes.
Guadalupe Mountains.
Yes.
It's an hour and a half drive for me, so it's close. Two, that's really where I did my first solo backpacking trip there.
Nice.
That's really where I first pushed myself. It's my first state high point, and I've only done 3, but that was my first one. And yeah, it's near and dear to me. I actually pushed a service project with Scouts last year on National Public Lands Day out there just to get more people out there. And I didn't get much turnout. The only people that went were my friends and Scouts, but that was cool. They supported me and my effort, and we helped do some trail maintenance out there. Yeah,
Nice.
Gotta love Guadalupe's. It's awesome. It's rugged, and not many people out there. Love it. So, state parks. I probably haven't been nearly as many as yourself or other people, but of the ones I've been to, so really like Caprock Canyons, Hill Country State Natural Area, Franklin Mountains, Hueco Tanks. I'm sure there's others sprinkled in there, but of those main ones, it's got to be Franklin Mountains. Ease of access is part of it. It's right here in my backyard.
Yeah.
But that's also where most of my videos are. That was a big part of inspiring me to do my channel, showing there's stuff to do here, and they're fun. You can really challenge yourself. You can do everything from little kid-friendly, easy short hikes to really hard scrambles with exposure that scare the bejesus out of me, while my friends do it without doing anything. Make me feel a little diminished. No, it's a cool park.
I've never been out there. I'll definitely have to check that out.
I love it.
So what's your favorite trail in Texas?
Well, that's a tough
You
one.
only have one hike left in your life. What trail is it going to be on?
Not Guadalupe Peak.
No, please no. Don't say that.
One trail left. How long do I have to do the trail? Is it
as long as you want.
Single day? As long as I want.
Whatever you want to do.
It may not be one I've done before. I have a couple bucket list trails.
Let us hear.
And I've done. One would be if I've, let's say I'm still in good health, and I have as much time as I need, either Guadalupe Ridge Trail or Big Bend 100 is pretty ambitious for me. I'm not in that kind of shape. I don't think so. Be Guadalupe Ridge Trail would be it, and I've done parts of it just by being in the Guads. But yeah, I think that's what it would be.
So Todd, he was episode maybe 7 and 8, but he is a expert on the Guadalupe Ridge Trail. So yeah, and we talked a little bit about it in our podcast episode, and also he is the the creator of the Guadalupe Mountain Backcountry Facebook page. And
I know of Todd. We've interacted in social media a few times. I've never met him. I didn't know he did that. So that's cool.
Oh yeah, he for the Guadalupe Ridge Line Trail, he is an expert. He's done it, I think, 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
Like, so he's writing a guide that, I don't know that he'll ever, he says you don't know that he'll ever finish it, but he's trying. But like caching and like everything you ever want to know, he is your man.
That's good. I saw some of Cameron's videos that him and Todd did.
Yeah.
Together, and I remember seeing them getting their water caches stolen, and I was like, oh my god, what a horrible feeling that must be.
Can you imagine? What's your plan B? I'm going to cut a cactus open and.
Right. I think they found stock tanks and just filtered stock tank water.
Yeah.
But that sucks.
Yeah, and the same thing happened with him and Joe when they were doing it. So Joe at Trekker Joe's,
Hmm.
um, you know, they didn't lose any cash, but I think they were out there and trying to find the stock tanks, and then they were empty, and then
Oh
they had to
man.
go to the next one, and I think that one was empty. Then they had like one more, and it was oh man, we're really in trouble if we don't, so it's all on the podcast. That's with Joe. Joe's been on the podcast. So yeah, it was Joe and Todd. They have some very interesting stories and experiences about hiking that hike.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's the bucket list one. So maybe when I
All right,
feel like I'm
cool.
getting back in shape again, I can reach out to him.
So speaking of that, what has been your most difficult hiking or backpacking trip in Texas?
So there's different ways to classify this. Difficult in terms of specs on paper, or difficult for me personally, right?
You
Like,
personally, if you look, like for me, the El Capitan Trail, it's probably not the most difficult that I've ever done, but it broke me. And like I've done the quad, it was difficult. It didn't break me. The El Capitan Trail wasn't as difficult, and it broke me. It broke my spirits. It broke me.
okay, I
So
like the
so
way you're
just
going at
like
it.
where you're just like, yeah, it kicked my butt.
I have one in mind right now, but let me run through my memory banks.
Hmm.
It's probably gonna have to be a trip with Cameron. We did like 3 nights out in the quads, and he's an awesome trip planner. I'll tell you what, I've been lucky to do a few trips with him, and I've had a lot of fun. And doing the quads with him, because he studied a lot of the history out there, it's like having a personal tour guide,
Yeah.
pointing everything out and
I
the
watched
story
those
behind different
videos of
structures.
that trip that y'all did.
It was, yeah, that was a hard one. I actually cut off part of the itinerary, so it was day 3, and let's see if I can remember exactly. We started, see, we hiked up to Mescalero from Pine Springs area, went to Mescalero campground for day 1. Day 2, went down to Dog Canyon, refilled our waters, came back, and I think it's Marcus Campground, I think is the name of it.
Yep.
And then from Marcus, day 3, and that was a 2-gallon water carry for me anyway, from Dog Canyon to Marcus. And that's getting heavy. And
Yeah.
we're hiking up. We're hiking towards Bush Mountain Campground. That was gonna be our day 3 campground. And on the way up, we're gonna hit some other peaks, and then of course there's the bomber wreck out there. And so we were gonna set up Camp Bush and then go check out the bomber wreck. But I was moving so slow coming out of Marcus on all the uphills, super slow. And Cameron, he's so chill that I know he had been waiting forever for me at the top of everywhere we went that was uphill. He's sitting there chilling. He's probably waiting a good 20 minutes on me as I was moving up super slow. I was bonking bad. And so we got set up at Bush Mountain. I just told him, hey man, I don't have it in me. I want to real bad, but I think I'd cause a problem right now. I need to rest, lay down. And ultralighters are gonna get mad about what I'm about to describe. I carried with me, which was canned chicken. Sometimes I bring pouch chicken,
Canned?
sometimes I bring canned chicken. Yeah, like a tuna can, but with chicken. Um, and so
Yeah.
I had the canned chicken, and I set up my tent, and I was just going to rest and relax. I needed some electrolytes. I needed some calories. That was my mistake. I wasn't eating enough going up. And I remember I ate the chicken on some tortillas, and then I drank the chicken water in the can. I love chicken water. It's a manna from heaven. It's got salts, it's water. It tastes
Yep.
awesome out there. And I was good as new. I took a nap and woke up good as new. But I was hurting pretty bad and chopped off some of the itinerary on that one.
Yeah, I think some of the videos that Cameron posted were talking about that you may be struggling a little bit.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I'm not in the same shape he is, and I'm in the Texas meetup group. They all know I'm last. I'm always the last one. Partly because I just hike slower than everyone else, and partly because I like to take pictures. So
Yeah, like the group that I'm with Henning and Sam, like they're all in their like Sam's in 30s, Henning's early late 30s, maybe. I don't think he's 40 yet. So yeah, I'm the last person. They leave me. Um, and I've just it is what it is. I'm in my 50s. It takes me a little longer, but I also take a lot of pictures, and all the crap they give me, they don't complain when they see all the pictures. Like, can you share all the pictures you taken? Well, yeah, I can. If you leave me alone about being last.
I get some good natured ribbing from the group about it, but nothing
Yeah,
mean, It's just it is what it is.
yeah.
So my
So,
kids actually joined us on the last Texas meetup, my older two.
oh,
And
nice.
for once they were like they could go full speed and keep up with the fast hikers and not have to wait on their dad who's always making them slow down. So I think they really like that aspect of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, this last trip in February. So I try to go to Guad at least October and February. And I took my youngest. We're fixing to be empty nesters, which is exciting. But I
Oh
took my
wow.
youngest with Henning, and yeah, I mean, I couldn't keep up with Charlie. Like him and Henning just took off, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Hopefully, I don't die. So, kind of talking about your photography and stuff. And let's say we had some listeners that wanted to get into not maybe so much photography with all the gear and stuff, but just to experience some of the most beautiful views that you've experienced. Where would you tell them?
So I mean while Guadalupe Mountains is my favorite, no
Yeah,
doubt about it. South Rim, and everyone knows about South Rim, but South Rim is pretty epic for views, right?
right.
Um, but that's far. That's far for people in this area. So let's say someone from El Paso is asking me. Locally, certainly in the Franklins, there's some trails where you get some pretty awesome views, uh, especially hitting up North Franklin Peak or Ron Coleman Trail, because Ron Coleman Trail is like a ridge walk. You're on the ridge line for a decent amount. I'd also say Anthony's Nose, but that's the one peak that continues to elude me, partly because I need to get over some injuries and partly because I get over fear of scrambles. But those are
Anthony's
good places.
Nose.
Yeah, it's the second highest peak in the Franklin Mountain Range. I've done North
Okay.
Anthony's Nose, which is not the same, but Anthony's Nose, and it's a fun hike. A lot of people here that are hardcore hikers do it. I still have to bag that peak,
Okay.
but let's go to the Guads. Save the best for last. I think my favorite view in the Guads that I've experienced, it's got maybe Wilderness Ridge.
Yeah.
I love Wilderness Ridge. Certainly Hunter Peak. That's an easy one for people that are new to hiking to get to. I mean, it's a hike, but the trail's easy to follow.
And I think that Hunter's Peak has got to be the best peak in the park for like someone to get to. It's spacious, no one's there, and you can see everything. Now
Everything.
you get up to Shumard and Bartlett, they're pretty spectacular peaks just because you got there all off trail navigation, reading maps, and it just kind of adds to it. But
Right,
yeah, I
right.
think Hunter, you can't argue that's not one of the most spectacular peaks in Texas and in the park.
That view is pretty epic. I remember being up there once with some of those famous Guadalupe mountain winds,
Mm-hmm.
and there was another hiker up there. That was a solo backpacking trip I was on. I was hitting Hunter Peak on the way back down, and it was strong enough winds to push you around one of those days.
Yeah,
And this person was up there, and I'm not making fun of them at all. I had nothing but respect. It was clear they were terrified to be up there, and with the wind pushing them around, they did this like Spider-Man walk across the rocks, and come hell or high water, they were going to touch that survey marker.
yeah.
And I
Oh,
just watched them get there, touched it, and got the heck off the top. And I was like, good for you. That looked
yeah.
really hard for them, and they conquered and did it. So,
Did you tell them be sure to go down Bear Canyon?
you know, I I went up it for the first time hiking with Cameron,
Oh,
and I
Cameron
remember
killed you.
thinking he did, but I've gone up it several times now. I prefer
Yeah.
up on it. Tejas Trail takes forever to go up.
Yes. Yeah.
Takes
And
forever.
it's what is Tejas, about 5 miles to get to the top from Pine Springs, something like that. And yeah, you
Something like
can just
that.
1.7 miles up Bear Canyon. You're gonna pay for it, but you'll get it over with.
Yeah. Yeah, you get up there done. I actually used that loop Hunter to Tejas to train some scouts. They had never gone backpacking before, and they were going to do over 100
Oh,
miles at Philmont. And so they asked me to train them. And they did it. They did 100 plus miles at Philmont.
nice.
But that was the hardest training hike in the program that I had them do. Fully loaded packs up to Bear
Oh,
Canyon. They're like 15, 16. And I remember when they got home that night, and Mom picked them up for me. One of them, he just climbed in the back seat of the car and fell asleep instantly with his feet hanging out the door. And Mom was
Oh,
closing the door on his feet to try to wake him up, and he was not waking up. He was beat. But, I didn't do anything unsafe or push him. We took tons of breaks, and it
yeah.
was just a hard hike with a fully loaded pack.
I can't believe Cameron took you to Bear Canyon. I always thought he was such a nice, wonderful guy. I didn't know he had that kind of streak in him.
Well, he made the comment to me, you could do it, it could take forever in Tejas. You just get it over with. And he converted me. I'm a convert. I would
Yeah.
prefer going up Bear Canyon than going down.
As much as I would say that I hate to admit it, I'm probably the same way.
Right.
Just get it over with.
Get it over with. There's
Just
at
get
least some shade on the way.
yes. So if you just I don't know how many of our listeners are from your area, but so we talk a lot about Guad, we talk a lot about Caprock in the previous podcast, a lot of Lone Star hiking trails and stuff. But if we just look at your area, so the El Paso, Franklin Mountains, are there any hidden gems or secret spots you've discovered that aren't really in the public know?
Probably not. I tend to stick to the trails on the maps. That's sort of
Yeah.
my normal mode of operation. But certainly hidden gems. Let me think. So in the Franklin Mountain State Park, North Franklin Peak, it's like Guadalupe Peak. Everyone has to do it at some point, right? And I do it
Okay.
about once a year. I hit that peak up just for the exercise. It's not particularly fun for me, especially the last mile, but I do it. But if I'm looking for just a fun hike, and it's not even an epic climb, it's not these big grand views overlooking the desert, which I do enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a loop that it goes through Anthony Gap in the mountains, hits up Anthony Gap Cave, and then it goes through what's called Northern Pass, and it's about a 5 mile loop. Super chill, easy if I just want to get away. And what I like about it is you see kind of the interior Franklin Mountains that you cannot see from the highway or the roads that surround the park. And
Okay.
when I get there, it just feels like I've gone back in time. I feel like I'm looking at what man, pre-Columbian man, had been looking at.
Right.
Same
Nice.
stuff, and it's a chill hike.
Yeah. So like I had Kip, and so Kip and we met at Guad. No, we met actually on the Midland Odessa Facebook hiking group, and then we met at Guad. And he's like my expert for Paladuro. And so when I asked him this question, he's like, "Oh yeah, there's slot canyons that no one knows about. There's this, there's that."
Oh,
So like
cool.
yeah. So he was like unloading, not giving locations, because we both agreed that people should earn it and do the research and stuff. But yeah, I mean he really, it shocked me of all the kind of little hidden things in Paladuro that he explored and was able to find. So it was interesting.
That's cool. I sometimes think about doing more off-trail stuff, and I usually don't. But when I do trips with some other people, if they plan it, I'll do it with them and have fun with it.
Yeah.
I
So
did once. Oh, go ahead.
you can blame them.
That's right. That's right. What the heck's
Damn
wrong
you,
with you?
Cameron! Oh, it's your fault.
So, okay, that was another hard day. Was with him coming down, and I won't, in line with what you said about people earning it, I won't say exactly which canyon it was we went down, but we had crossed into New Mexico from the national park and made our way back with a little loop. It was an awesome trip that he planned. He did some cool research, and that campsite in that canyon was amazing. But that trail was so overgrown, and this happens a lot where when it's really crappy, you don't film, and that's probably the most interesting thing to film is how crappy
Yes.
it is. And we, I don't think either of us filmed all that much, but it was so overgrown that it made me think about. I like to read fantasy, like high fantasy novels, and they talk
Hmm.
about forests coming alive and grabbing you. That's what it was. I just remember getting snagged like mid stride, 1 foot still in the air, and just stuck. And you fight to take that next step, and then you're stuck again. And it was, it felt like 20 miles. I think it might have only been maybe a mile or so of it, but you're fighting that hard for every step. And then the leaves had settled in the bottom, and you didn't know if you stepped in it. It's like walking on snow. Are you gonna post hole up to your knee, or was it just
Oh,
two
yeah,
inches
yeah,
deep?
yeah, yeah.
So kind of hopping rock to rock when we weren't being caught by the vegetation. That was a really rough day, and both of us were like, "That sucks. We're never doing it again." But I think we're at a point now where like we would do that again. That was cool.
You forget about it. It's type 2 fun, right? You
Yeah,
forget about how crappy it was, and you're like ready to go back. And it's funny
yeah.
that you say that you guys were, when you hit the crappy parts, that you don't really film a lot. Like I hardly have any pictures of the quad, and it sucked,
Mm,
and that's probably why. Like I was just like, I hate this. I hate myself. I hate everything about this. And I didn't take very, I didn't take any. I think I took one picture on each of the peaks, and then when we got up to Bush, so it. I think if I ever did it again, I'd go out to Bush, spend the night, leave my tent there, and then just hike from Bush to Bartlett to Shumard to Guad. I think that would be better. And then go to Pine Springs, get some rest, and then head back up to Bush to get pack up all my stuff. I think that's
really?
probably yeah, that's just
That's interesting.
experiencing it going from Guadalupe. I think going the Bush way the other direction would be way better. And I think I had like 5 pictures that whole traverse, that whole day, and we hiked from 3 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning till like 8 or 9 o'clock at night
Wow, wow.
with like 5 pictures. And yeah,
You're just
so
you're in that crap mode, and you just like you said, you're hating it and want to move through it. And I like to I share with people that ask you why do you do that, right? That sounds horrible, but I really think long distance hiking, and that'll be relative to everyone's abilities, right? What's long
all
to
right.
you and what's hard. But if you're pushing yourself and it's all day long, I just feel like it's good life lessons for my kids, for whoever I take out there, for myself. That there are times that are gonna suck, but then you're gonna have accomplished something at the end. And you're gonna feel damn good about it, right? Or you earned an amazing view, and you had to go through the suck to get that amazing. That's just how life is, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's why I take my kids on their 16th birthday. We don't have birthday party, quinceanera about them. We say, I'm taking you to Guadalupe Mountains. I don't care if it's winter time, whatever time, and I'm gonna hike the crap out of you. And I better hope, like we as your parents will support you, but you need to prepare. So you need to check the weather, what clothes you're packing, what food you're packing. It's all up
That's
to
great.
you. And
That's great.
yeah, and life life when you get out in the real world, life's going to kick you in the teeth. So you better be ready.
Yeah, that's exactly what's gonna happen.
No.
I talking about crappy moments you don't film as reminds me of a story where it was another trip with it was Cameron again, and then a guy named Nate. He has a channel called One Man's Odyssey, and
Hmm.
he's not Texas based, but man, that guy is a monster at peaking or bagging peaks in New Mexico. And so he reached out. He organized a cool loop in the Guadalupe Mountains, but not the national park. We were actually all in national forest,
Hmm.
and we camped. I think it's called Last Chance Canyon. And my tent is not freestanding. And this campground, or where we set up camp, it was awesome and flat, but all rock, right? Nowhere to put my stakes in. And so we were expecting to get some winds. It was already a little windy, and I'd set up it was the X-Men. I set it up and I put rocks on the stakes to hold it in place. I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. That'll hold. No, and
Nope.
that night, if it wasn't below freezing, it was close. I'm pretty sure it was upper 20s in the evening. But I remember being in the tent. It's one of those where you can hear the wind coming before it hits, right? And I'm pretty sure it was 60
Oh,
plus mile an hour gusts, right? You can hear it's like a
yep,
train coming down the
yep.
canyon. And I was like, oh God, hold up tent. And it held for a couple. I was like, okay. And then I let myself fall asleep. Next thing you know, that was a rude awakening. The tent was ripped off of me. The only thing holding it in place was me and the internet. The not internet, but the internet tent. And
Yeah.
But totally exposed, like to that 60
Mm.
mile an hour wind and around freezing temperatures. And I was wearing my long johns at the time, and this is where I was afraid I'd start dropping cuss words, but I was dropping a lot of cuss words out loud and not filming any of it because that would have been cool footage. But I wasn't thinking about that, and I'm trying to reset my tent where it pulled the stakeouts from under the rocks, and I reset
Oh
them,
man.
and then it collapsed again, and then then I think maybe the third time it collapsed, the line had actually snapped from rubbing against the rock, and so
Oh
I was like
shit.
trying to retie the line with a tent that's like a sail in the wind, and um, I know a bunch of knots, and I wasn't going to start with the square knot because I didn't expect it to hold in that load, but it actually held in the load because I couldn't do anything else fighting the winds like that. I just kept it simple, and it took me 5 tent collapses to sort of figure out a way to stack rocks where the line wouldn't rub against the rocks and fray, but there was enough weight, enough rocks piled up to hold the stake in place. And so about 3 a.m., I finally went to bed and could sleep through the night. But the next morning, I forget who it was, but someone asked me, "Hey, were you dropping a lot of f bombs at about 2 in the morning?" Yeah, that was me.
You, hey, next time you just go jump in the tent with Cameron. Tell him to scoot over.
Well, I even tried just wrapping the fly around me like a blanket. I said, "Screw it!
Yeah.
I'm just gonna wrap it around me like a blanket and sleep." And the wind still ripped it off of me. So
Jeez.
that was a fun night.
Wow. Yeah, I've had a couple of those too, and I will not like. I have some really nice tents. I will not take a nice tent to Guadalupe Mountain just for that one reason of the wind, and I would hate to have a duplex ripping. Like the winds get crazy up there, and I would cry. So I take my like I have a couple of cheap like $80 gear tops, and I'll
Uh huh.
usually take them. Especially going in the back country where the wind is, you're at elevation and the winds is just there's a potential or it's going to knock you off the mountain. So
Yeah, yeah. I don't blame you. That would, yeah, my heart would be broken if I had a duplex shredded by the wind. That would not be a fun. First, that means that the weather sucked, and then you losing it also tent would suck on top of that.
so this next question is probably one of my favorites. And I'll give you an example for me and then see if you have anything. What are some common misconceptions about hiking in Texas that you like to debunk? And so one of mine is, and I see it all the time on people posting, is what hiking boot do I need to buy? And I just say, like, the only time that you would need a hiking boot is if you're going off trail at, Big Bend State Park, Bend Big National Park, or Guadalupe Mountain. Maybe the Franklins if you're going off trail, in these types of environments. But anything else, just get a nice trail runner. So the hiking boot is the like because you're hiking, you don't need and don't have to have a hiking boot. So do you have anything that you see and you're like, no, I've got to debunk that or educate someone to that you don't need to do that?
Sure, that's a good one. So trail misconception. Before I jump onto that, I didn't mention Big Bend Ranch State Park. I've only been there once on the Rancherias Loop, but that place is pretty amazing and cool too. And I
I've
could
never
definitely
been
see
there and it's on my bucket list for sure.
it's cool, and I'm close enough. I need to make more trips out there. On the hiking boot versus trail runner, I'm a trail runner guy. Also, just lighter weight, feet are more comfortable. They dry out, they get wet.
Yes.
Um, but I could see maybe if somebody has issues with their ankles, wanting the boot support. But I also feel like you're just transferring motion to your knee, and your knee only bends in one direction, where the ankle is a 360-degree motion. You know?
Yeah, and like for me, if I've twisted my or not like sprained, but twisted my ankle in a hiking boot. I've twisted my ankle in a
Mm,
trail runner. I've twisted my ankle. Like it doesn't stop me from twisting my ankle if I wear a hiking boot.
that's
It's
a good
just
point.
it's just it's just a lot more comfortable to twist my ankle in a trail runner than a hiking boot.
It it is. I remember doing field work. So I'm a scientist in my normal day job. We had to do some field work, and the guy was running around in hiking boots, and we're running up and down sand dunes all day. I said, "Dude, tomorrow bring your trail runners, and you're gonna love it. Trust me."
Yes.
and that converted him. After one day, he's like, "Oh my God, you were right." And so now he just hikes the trail runners. But other misconceptions, I would say one, and you actually mentioned it in your first podcast, and I was like, because you mentioned you might ask this question, and I was like, oh no, he has the same answer as me, which is there's no mountains in Texas. So that's a big misconception. We have awesome mountains. They may not be the Colorado Rockies, but they're magnificent and majestic in their own way. And
And
I love the
beautiful
desert.
and
Hmm.
spectacular.
But I guess another misconception I would say is there are people, and I get it, everyone has different levels of comfort, but there's some people out there that just have this mentality that solo hiking should never, ever, ever, ever be done, ever. And I'm not saying, hey, you're new to hiking, go hike solo. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, I'm talking to a guy right now trying to convince him to go solo. I would say never say never, but take precautions, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
we mentioned this earlier. Make a plan. Let someone know the plan, so if they don't see it, they can come get you. And I would say phase into it. Build up your comfort, build up your capability. So don't start with the 15-mile in the backcountry solo hike on your first try, but work up to it. Phase, get your comfort, figure out what you need and don't need. So I think that's one. But there's I'm also not saying don't be nonchalant about it. There are things to consider if you're solo hiking, especially out here in the
Well,
desert.
yeah, and even if you have a group solo neighborhood hike, extreme hike, every time you step on the trail, you need to be ready for the absolute worst thing that could ever happen to happen to you.
Yes.
Like I know a lot of people that, "Well, I'm going to go do this," and that the thought, like, they haven't done what they need to do to really to understand what could happen, bailout points, like all through this stuff,
Hmm.
and they take it very lightly. And like Hang and I rock climb. We've been rock climbing together for 3 years. Like, to this day, we still, before I start to climb, before he starts to climb, we have precautionary checks. We check the knot, we check the belay device, we check, and even like I'm fixing to start climbing, and then we both realize, oh crap, like we didn't check. I'll come down off of that second or first or second move, and we check each other. So, like, complacency and or not thinking, well, I don't know if it's
Right.
something can't happen to me, or like you just, oh, I'm just gonna walk in the neighborhood. Yeah, but you go walk in my neighborhood, there's copperheads back there, or where you're at, rattlesnakes. That little
Right. Right.
neighborhood hike could end not in a positive way for you.
And it's a never present risk, as minimal as it might be. You do need to be aware of that for
Yeah.
sure. For sure. In fact, you mentioned complacency. It can kill you, right? That's the
Yep.
phrase. Complacency kills. I was doing this was a 5-nighter in New Mexico in San Pedro Parks Wilderness area. Freaking beautiful, and tons of water everywhere, which is not something I usually get to be around. And so I was with a group, and it was me, my oldest son, and like 4 other friends, and we're all chilling around the campfire. And I noticed one of the guys disappeared for a while. I just figured he was going number 2 in the dark somewhere. Came back, kept chilling with us, and the next day he was like, "Hey, Dell, I think I need to bail out on this hike." And so we changed itinerary and hit up another trailhead so he could get off
Hmm.
and get help. And it turned out he had actually sliced himself open really bad, and he wasn't doing number 2. He was in his tent doing some triage to his hand, and
Jeez.
it was just a moment of complacency, processing wood, and um, he got it bandaged up on his own. The dude is tough. None of us knew what had happened, and he actually had permanent nerve damage. Had to get surgery and stuff. So
Oh wow.
his hand is mostly recovered. It's almost a full recovery, but there's some permanent damage there. So just what you're talking about. You gotta be aware and thinking.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I'm starting a move to cancel water bladders. And I hate them suckers. every every dangerous situation that I've been in is due to a water bladder. Not mine, because I don't use them, but people that I'm with. Like, they leak, they can get punctured. Um,
Sure.
then what are you gonna do, right? Um, Yeah, you may find water like a puddle or something. Now, how are you going to filter it? When I'm hiking with someone, if I'm more experienced, I want to see how much water you have, and I can't see you using a water bladder. I can't see how much water you have. I want you to see how much water I have, and using a bladder, you can't. And also, I
Right.
think you look at people with water bladders, and there's just like I think they think it's a magical thing in their backpack that will never run out of water, and they're just sipping away. And with a smart water bottle, you have like everybody knows how much water you have. You know how much water you have. You know how further you have to hike and how you can ration the water to make sure you get it there. So yeah, I hate water bladders, and there's only a couple of people like Henning, John, Sam that I'll hike if they. I think Henning uses a bladder that I'll allow it. Other than that, I'm not hiking with you if you're using a bladder. And I don't know if you can see. Here's all my smart water bottles.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah. And so, like, I'll find them. People throw them away. I wash them out, and I just recycle them.
So with water carrying, we're fairly well aligned. I hate bladders for much of the same reasons you do, but I won't say I never use them. I'll use it as a part of a multi-carry strategy if I need to carry bigger loads, or on trail runs, where if there's aid stations, or I'm not that far, but I want to be able to sip while I'm jogging. So
Yeah.
I'll use it there. But for hikes, yeah, I hate not knowing how much water I have left, and nobody likes that feeling of the water just stopping when you're sucking on that straw. Right? Sorry, you got a one, or you're holding your finger up?
Oh no, I'm showing you. Have you ever used a Trekker Joe water bottle sleeve holder?
No. But
Oh my gosh.
does it fit on your backpack strap?
Yes, it is a game changer for water carries. For I'm hiking with one hand, I can grab the water, I can undo the thing, drink, put it back in the thing. Like I can't reach back on my hip belt and grab water. So
Right.
they sit like right here. Um, for heavy water carries, you got 2 water bottles or 2 liters on your hip belts. You have 2 liters up front, and the weight distribution the way your backpack now carries the weight, it's completely different. These are game changers. They're made in Texas by Joe. They're not long, so it's easier to pull the water
Oh,
bottles out.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
So
I'm a big fan of water
oh, you
bottles on
have
the
to.
strap.
Yeah, you have to check out Trekker Joe's, definitely.
Thanks for the tips. I
And that
appreciate
he is not a sponsor of the Trail Living
it.
Texas podcast. It is because I love the product.
So I'll tell you this: what I've switched to, and this is also gonna make, because I'm not at all making fun of ultralighters, because I wanted to be ultralight so bad for so long, and I got down to like a 12-pound base weight at my lightest. Just 2 more pounds to go, and I didn't quite get there. I just wasn't willing to let go of certain things. So I understand the smart water bottle. I love them. But I had an incident once hiking out here in the mountains where I bent over and it slipped out of my pack and it got punctured. And it goes to your thing about having all your water in one place and you lose it all. Luckily, I didn't, right? I had other bottles. But it punctured and I lost a good chunk of water. And it punctured near the bottom. So I had to turn the bottle upside down to keep the water from spilling out and so I could still salvage what I had. So now I've actually moved to Nalgene's again, which I
Mm-hmm.
left ages ago, but not the hard plastic ones, the
Yeah.
softer like white. So
Check
that's
this
what I
out.
do.
Speaking of gram counters, there's another piece of gear that is truly amazing. One second. Have you ever heard of trail brush?
No.
So this is it. Oh,
Oh wow, is it a toothbrush?
it's a toothbrush, and it fits on your spoon. It has a stopper, so but you get the idea. Oh,
Well, that's cool because I don't like the idea. I don't care if someone else chops their handle off, but I don't because I don't want my dirty fingers going in my mouth. But that solves the problem right there.
yep. And so it fits. Like I had Andrew on the podcast. His episodes will be dropping in August. He's the inventor of this.
Oh, that's cool.
And so he said all these spoons, they're made by like a couple of vendors. No matter if it's Cedar Summit or Tokes, it's all made by the same people. They just stamp it differently. So all their holes are the same. And so like there's a little stopper that you take off and it slips in there and it fits on your
That's
spoon
awesome.
and yeah, I'll send you the video, my TikTok I made of me using it, and you can see it's wonderful.
Oh, I love it. Thank you for sharing that one with me.
Yeah, yeah. So
And
it's trail brush. So you can YouTube, Google, Instagram, and see it. But it's an amazing product as well.
I like it. I do. I and with the grab counting stuff, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of lightweight gear, but what happened to me is I got into full frame photography, and so trying to go ultralight has helped me make room to carry all the camera gear. But my pack is nowhere near ultralight anymore because of the camera gear. So
Yeah, I hike with John, and the lens, like he has a lens that's almost longer than his arm, and and he's carrying all this stuff, and I'm like, oh man,
wow.
yeah, and like just some wonderful pictures. So let's as we start to kind of to wrap this up, if let's say I catch you on a trail, what are some of the essential items that you're going to be carrying? And let's just talk what you would normally kind of carry or what's important to you for like a day hike.
So really, just the normal hiking essentials, and there's a few different lists out there. So let's say day hike.
But what is your normal? Because like, you're out in the deserty area, maybe a little bit different than where I'm at.
Sure. Well, I'm thinking. I'm buying time while I think about what's in my bag. So we're talking essentials, not the camera gear that I'm bringing, because
Yeah,
that's
just the
kind of essential
essentials.
to me.
Like, yeah,
um, well, just the normal stuff. So sun protection is huge out here. Sun protection, sun protection,
yeah.
sun protection. I like a wide brimmed hat personally. I've
Okay.
done the hats with capes. It just gets stuffy on my neck sometimes, and the stiffer bill gets in the way of the camera. I thought I would never buy a Tilly hat because they're expensive, but then I saw one on sale and I wanted to know what what it was all about. And I love my Tilly. I was gonna say that. So that's a big one. Sunscreen, water, of course, and I'm just gonna throw this out there. If you guys are just now learning to hike and you're watching a lot of East Coast hikers and they say you never need to carry more than 1 liter of water, don't listen to that out here in Texas. There's you
God,
need more water, right?
yes.
Or go ahead.
Please carry as much water as you can.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I got friends on search and rescue, and let's just say they've been involved in stories that don't end well at all because they didn't bring enough water. So for me, I
And
have a
they were
rule of thumb.
probably using they were probably using a bladder too.
Could be. Um, but my kind of rule of thumb on the desert, and this is just based on me learning my body over time.
Yeah.
But my rule of thumb is a liter per 5 miles, and then I'll add extra liters for increased elevation change or topographic difficulty. And that's me. And I wish I had a stronger formula I could share with people that are newer, but I don't. I just know me and how I work. And I've had to cut hike short day hikes if I hit a point and I've gone through half my water supply. I'm like, I'm going to turn around now. Better to come back another day than to
But
get
I
stuck in
think
here.
you said absolutely a perfect thing is to the new hiker and backpacker, know your body.
Yeah.
Know what your requirements are in cold weather, in rainy weather, in heat, in all these types of seasons, all these types of weather that we have. Get out and hike. Like you can hike in rain where it's not like a rainstorm where you're risking like trees falling on you and stuff, but you can get out and experience that. You can get out on a cold day, you can get out on a hot day and
Yeah.
just see what your requirements are. It's so important to know your requirements. So like for me, I do a liter per 10 miles and I do a liter so I do a liter for 10 miles because that I know how I react and how I
Hmm.
before I start hiking, I drink a liter. So I ingest a liter. I'm carrying for every 10 miles a liter. And then I carry at least 1 liter for everybody that I'm with. or a half a liter. So like if I'm with two other people, I'll carry an extra liter, a half a liter for each one of them. Um, if I'm hiking with experienced hikers, then I may not. It'll just be, I'll drink a liter before we start hiking, and then a liter for every 10 miles. And also it depends on the temperature and stuff. But yeah, that's so important. What you said is know what you're about, and also to go with that is know your gear. Go hiking in the rain. Go hiking in the heat.
Yes.
Go hiking in the snow. Go hiking in the whatever. Just so you know, like when you're in the backcountry in the quads, and your quilt or your 30-degree, when you're out in the freezing weather, like it's gonna work, or oh man, it'll work if I wear layers of clothes. Like you start to understand, is your rain gear gonna work? Is it gonna keep you dry, or is it gonna keep you kind of dry?
Right.
Like know your
Right.
gear as well.
You shouldn't be getting to know it on the trail. That's a big
When
thing.
it really matters, right? Like you can do gear shakedowns, test hikes to get
Right.
that, but you're never going to be in any kind of real danger. So like, I'm going to test my rain gear. It's raining. Okay. I'm going to do like a 5-mile hike. So I'm going to, out there and back,
Yeah.
nothing major, but yeah, I mean, understand all that stuff, how you react to the weather, what you need to be successful, and then how your gear is going to hold up.
Yep. Yeah. Test if you can. I've been known to run in the backyard. We don't get much cold weather here in El Paso, and sometimes we get once in a little snowstorm. And I'll be spending the night in the backyard because it's not often I get to test my stuff in snow, and then it'll all be melted by 10 a.m. the next day. But at least that night I could be like, okay, I stayed warm and it handled the fall. Nothing was getting on me. I'm okay. Quick, but I also learned not to do certain tarp pitches because I tested out in a rainstorm and it actually caused rain to pull in the tarp and it collapsed on me one time, or just doesn't keep you dry enough. So
Yeah, I
anyway,
mean, those things, it's so important, and exactly what you did. And I'm gonna call BS on the doesn't snow in El Paso, because it was it was dodging a blizzard how I discovered Guadalupe Mountains. And when we got to El Paso, the blizzard still hit us, and it took me like 4 hours. We spent the night. It was a mess with snow, and it took me about 4 hours to get out of El Paso on our way up into New Mexico.
it took 4 hours because we don't know how to deal with snow here because it never snows.
Oh man, it was coming through Lubbock, so we thought, okay, we would shoot out to El Paso, and as it's coming down through Lubbock, we would then go up New Mexico, and we would miss it. But no, it hit all of Texas.
Oof, oof.
Oh, it was
Well,
it was horrible.
touche. It does. We do get some snow here, and actually, one of my favorite pictures I took of the Franklins was with it with snow, but we don't
Oh,
get much of it.
really?
We don't get
Yeah,
much of it.
yeah, for sure you don't get much, but man, when you said, "Oh yeah, it doesn't snow here," I'm like, "I've got pictures."
Fair
So
point.
if you look back, you're an experienced hiker, backpacker. If you ran into someone who wanted to get into it, or a beginner, what is some advice that you would give them about hiking in Texas?
Vice hiking Texas. Total beginner. They don't have nothing.
Yeah, they want to get into it. What are some advice, some tips that you think is probably like really important for them to be successful?
I may have touched on these already, but
Hmm.
two come to mind, especially hiking out here. Of course, water, water, water. Do not
Yeah,
underestimate how much water you need. If you don't know, you can figure it out with the next tip, which is phasing. Phase in. Don't jump in hardcore right away. Start smaller and work your way up and learn your body and learn your gear, like you were saying. I'm big on phasing. I got like friends that haven't backpacked, and I said, okay, well, if you're nervous, go front country camping with your backpacking gear. That way, if you forgot something, because it's your first time and you're not sure what all you need in your kit, you can just get in your car and go. You can go home safe. But once you get through that first night, now you got everything you need. You don't need much to get through a night. You don't need much, but get that confidence up, right? Phases, and whether it's day hiking, backpacking, That's my big thing.
Okay. And so if you look back about your hiking journey in Texas, how has your perspective changed on hiking in our state over the years?
How has it changed?
So like while you're thinking, I can jump in and how I think of this question. So I think for me, I've experienced all regions of Texas and hiking, and my perspective on our state, the it's like we live and we're lucky in probably one of the most diverse states in the union, and
Hmm.
we have everything. We have mountains, we have forest, we have desert, we have I don't even know what beach hiking. I mean, we have everything that you can
It's true.
imagine, and my perspective has just been like at first you're just thinking, kind of like hiking, it's kind of boring. It's, everything around my house, it's just kind of woods, it's just a trail. And then you start to see the state, and it is mind blowing the diversity that we have.
Yeah, it's a huge range. It's piney woods to desert, right? From the Gulf
Yeah.
Coast plain to the Rocky Mountains. We get the southernmost point of the Rockies here in El Paso. That's a cool point. Has my perspective changed? It's hard because I grew up doing a lot of day hiking, and my dad was in the army, so we're moving around. I've done a lot of
Yeah.
places. I'm trying to think. Oh, we were talking about you, babe. My wife just walked in.
I
To
tell her
the,
she's got to be on the podcast.
he wants you on the podcast. She's about to take our son to basketball practice here.
Uh,
Um, oh, you know what? I can answer that from a more local perspective, maybe.
okay.
How's my perspective changed in El Paso? Yeah, this is actually a good answer. When I first came to El Paso, I was visiting, and not having grown up in the desert, my first thought was like, man, everything looks dirty, right? That's a horrible
Hmm.
thought. But that was just, I was used to green and bushes and trees and grass growing. But we moved out here, and I've just gotten back into the outdoors out here, and I realized it's not dirty, it's beautiful. And there's so much life in our desert that a lot of people don't realize. They just think it's dirt and rocks. And no, there's all kinds of amazingly adapted plants that we sit out on the sun. If we don't have sun protection on, we're baked, right? In an hour, you are baked and bright red. These plants have been adapted to be in this harsh light nonstop. They don't get to put sunscreen on or hide, right? To me, that's amazing. Uh,
Yeah.
there's so much um, function over form in desert vegetation. Everything's designed to hurt you. It's covered in thorns. It's protecting its little piece of turf, getting whatever water it can. And then, of course, the animal life, same thing. It's just so well adapted to being out here. It's amazing. And so maybe that's what hiking and getting into nature has done for me. I wasn't into outdoor photography until I did Yosemite with my dad and brother in 2017. Before I would just pull out my camera and take, oh, that's neat. Let me take a picture. Let me take a picture. But doing 80 miles in Yosemite with my dad and brother over like a week, we were staying in hotels. We weren't backpacking, but we did about 80 miles of hiking. And they're both like amazing photographers. So I started learning how to compose my photos just by copying what they were doing and bringing that back here to share it. And I'm not saying I'm the best photographer. I'm not, but I get
Oh,
some good shots
hey,
of the desert.
you've taken some badass pictures. I can vouch for it.
Well, thank you. And I think that's been a personal thing that's really changed for me out here is appreciating what we do have and how amazing it really is. And it's not more amazing anywhere else. Everywhere else is just as amazing. I don't know if I made this quote up or if I read it somewhere, but I say it. And it took billions of years to make the earth what it is at this point, and that makes it special. And you can say that at any point in
Absolutely.
time, right? It was
Yeah.
billions of years in the making. Everything is cool and special. So yeah, I think that into that question.
I like the answer. And yeah, you're absolutely your perspective on locally very interesting. So last three questions. What is one piece of gear that you would recommend? So I always end the episodes. I don't know if you listened with these two questions. So
Mhm.
one is, what is one piece of gear that you would recommend to any new hiker, backpacker? One piece of gear, like your most important piece of gear.
Okay. okay, so anyone can check a gear list for the essentials, but
Mhm.
with I'm gonna give two answers. One is a joke. Um,
Okay.
they always talk about the 10 hiking essentials, and when I teach scouts and stuff, I always say, don't forget the 11th essential, toilet paper. But then the
I have a bidet. Oh, that's another piece of gear you need to check out.
I actually got a Kulo clean. I got one of those
Yes, I have it.
during the I got it during the pandemic because of all the toilet paper scares. So I was stretching my
Yep.
TP supplies out. I haven't used it out here in the desert just because we don't have much water, but I do like it. It was nice. But
Yep.
um, the answer I was gonna say was a wide sleeping pad, and that extra few inches makes all the world of difference, especially if
Yes.
you roll back and forth like I do. So
Yep.
that would be it. Get a wide sleeping pad if you can.
So invest in the sleep system, the pad.
Yeah. Oh, what that was
Okay.
game changing. I'll never go back
Yeah.
to 20-inch.
I think my piece of gear, if I had to tell someone, a new hiker, backpacker, outside of the obvious, like, shoes, because anything Andrew said with trail brush, like anything between you and the ground is important. So like your sleeping pad, he brought up
Mm-hmm.
shoes. But again, I'm gonna go out and just say the Trekker Joe's water bottle sleeve holder. I don't care what
Nice.
backpack you have. I don't care. It takes you away from a bladder. It allows you to filter your water because you're using smart water bottles. It facilitates you having a Sawyer squeeze filter or whatever filtering device you want. If you're carrying a lot of water and you have the right setup, it makes your backpack feel so much better. And you can access your water with one hand and undoing the lid and drinking, and you don't have to like break your arms to try to reach back. That's been the biggest game changer. And I have 8 backpacks. I have probably 11 tents of all makes and models, and ultras and all these things but the Trekker Joe water bottle sleeve holder, that's my that's my I love that. Those, I have like 8 of them, 6 of them. I love them.
I'm actually I pulled it up on the web browser
Oh,
just to look at it,
you
and they're
have
pretty.
to.
They're beautiful. On
Yes,
top of
and
that,
you
all these cool
design them.
colors.
You pick whatever colors you want.
Heck yeah, yeah, that's fun.
Yeah,
I
so
like this.
yeah, you have to try it out. And he makes a lot of other wonderful products, but that one is just amazing. And the trail brush. That is, you think it's just kind of like a funny, cool piece of gear, but oh, I'm gonna send you the video of me using it. I love it.
I'm looking at the first review, and it's you.
Yeah.
On here. That's awesome.
Yeah. I
You
love
put your
that.
money where your mouth is.
Yep, absolutely. All right, next, second to last question. Same type of scenario, but what about one piece of safety? I know we've kind of talked about some safety stuff, but what is your most important piece of safety advice that you'd give to a new hiker or backpacker?
Know how to navigate. Know how to navigate. And, if you can, get a satellite communicator, because that, if you can, I know not everybody can, maybe they have a
Yeah,
desire to, but if you're out there for any amount of time, it could just save your life. And but knowing how to navigate, and I'm not an expert orienteering person at all, but I know how to use a map and compass, and
right.
it has gotten me out of a jam a couple of times in the backcountry where GPS was just plotting like miles in the wrong place, and the trail had disappeared. But
Mm,
luckily, the topography, or like the one I'm thinking of, particular San Pedro Park's wilderness, the topography was easy to identify on a topo map. And it was with my son, and I was like, we need to be over here. Let's look at the map. I know we're somewhere in this area. If we head in this direction, we'll hit this trail that intersects, and we know that was a main trail. And so we did it, and sure enough, we went a few miles, and we started seeing boot prints in the mud. And then there's that little part of you that's like, yay, few people come out here. But it was because we knew how to do that. And you don't have to be an expert at orienteering to be able to use a map and compass, but it is a skill. You need to practice it. And you can
yeah,
do a lot with just a little bit of knowledge, if that makes sense.
absolutely. Yep. I think my number one piece of safety advice, I think you should always do it whether you have a satellite device or not. And I think it would also really go towards people that that don't have the means to pay the subscription or to buy one of them, is no matter if I'm just walking out the door and hiking in the neighborhood, or if I'm leaving the house and doing any kind of hiking or backpacking, tell someone your itinerary. When
Yes.
where you're going, what trails you're going to do, what days you're going to do the trails, what time are you going to start your hikes, maybe what time you think you should end, what time should people expect to hear from you. And that's all fine and good. So you've given your itinerary. When you get to where you're going, so like an example, so the Lone Star hiking trail is right by my house, so I'm out there every Sunday hiking during hiking season.
Nice.
And like I'll tell my wife, hey, I'm heading out to Trailhead 6. I'll probably be there by 8 o'clock. I'm going to do 15 miles. It'll take me X amount of time. I'll text you when I'm done, and it should be around this time. She's like, okay, we're in alignment. Whether I have my Garmin device or not, she knows what I'm doing. I get to Trailhead 6, and the day before it rained, so it's like a swamp. So I text her like, hey, I'm changing my plans. I'm going to head to Trailhead 9, and same thing. Like I'm going to do this amount of miles. I'll hike from Trailhead 9 to wherever, and blah 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 blah. Times everything. Well, she didn't respond in the text and say, oh, okay, I got it. So I just went home. Like I waited about 30 minutes. She didn't ever say that she received that new itinerary. So I just went home. So once you leave an itinerary, don't change it unless the person that you left it with confirms that I understand your change. I mean, if there's so
Yes.
many stories of people, they find their bodies 3 or 4 years later because the itinerary was this. They decided, oh look, there's a side trail. Let's go to this peak, rock fall. They get, just stick to your itinerary. Stick to your itinerary. Stick to your itinerary.
Yes. Yes. Safety first. And we've talked about it. We've touched on this several times already. You see the articles, and it's
Yep.
sad. It's always sad. I remember the one that made me get in reach was a father and son from Corpus Christi, and I want to say they were near Carlsbad Canyons doing the desert hike, and they died maybe a mile or two from their car, dehydrated. They didn't understand the desert and the heat, and had they had a way to get help, maybe they'd still be here today. We don't know,
Yep.
but it's an
Yeah,
option
I mean,
that they
it's just
didn't have.
like the stepdad that took his two stepsons out to Big Bend, and the young one died. He ran back to the car, and I guess he had heat stroke. He was trying to go get help and crashed his car and fell off. I don't know the whole story of how he died, but he died. And when I guess he was able to reach somebody while he was, heading back to the trailhead, get into his car. When the rescuers got there, the oldest son was 21 years old. He was pulling his little brother, carrying him, pulling him, dragging
Mm.
him to the trailhead, and he ended up living. But yeah, I mean, two people died, and it's 119 degrees outside.
My a really good friend of mine was involved in that recovery and rescue.
Yeah,
And
so
it was one of the hardest ones he's been on.
yeah, I mean, like 119 degrees. I mean
Yeah,
that I don't.
hardest emotionally is
Yeah.
I'll say it kind of messes with his head a little. But yeah, 119
Yep.
out there, mm, that's hard.
And you don't have shade.
No, no,
Just like I've even told somebody, you go to Guadalupe Mountains, it's 23 degrees and there's no shade. That sun still cooks you.
it does.
Like that sun still takes it out of you.
It's
Um,
relentless. There's no
yeah,
escape from it, right? It's just sucking it
yeah.
out of you.
Well, the last question, can you share one of your most memorable Texas hiking experiences? Funny story, sad story, something that sticks to Cameron trying to destroy you going up Bear Canyon. What is some just one of your most memorable moments of being a Texas hiker?
Give me a second to think about that
Yeah.
one. Um, we definitely covered several memorable moments already, but Something amazing I want to share. Okay, I'm gonna cop out and give you two answers.
Okay, cool.
The first one was soloing the Outer Mountain Loop in Big Bend with a little side. I did the park itinerary with a little side jaunt to see South Rim and did a little bit up there. Only because that I don't know why I'd done several trips up to that point already, but I felt like I made it. I'm a real backpacker now.
Yeah. You always remember that moment, right?
Yeah, yeah. I did. I think that my whole trip overall was about 40 miles and by myself, and I had a lot of fun. And I actually ran into this couple. They had to be late 60s or early 70s out off the Dodson Trail. And these two were just the definition of desert rats. I could tell they were in their element. They were
Yeah.
supernatural out there. Loved it. And it was my first time and my only time in Big Bend National Park. So I need to go back because there's so much I want to see there. And so I didn't really know all the landmarks I was looking at. And I started talking to this couple. And it turned out he was a former Park Service employee that had named on the maps just about all the springs out there. It's like he's the one who
Wow.
came up with the names. He did the spring surveys out there. So this dude knew where the water was. And he started pointing out all the landmarks to me, what I was looking at, because I didn't know what I was looking at. And that was a pretty cool moment just to see these two out there. Yeah. And then the other one, and I think this is a little sappy. It's maybe the first time my oldest, so he was only like 11 or 12, did North Franklin Peak with me because it was cold. I took my glove off for a second to open up food, and it took about half an hour to warm back up in the glove. It was a little painful because it was sub freezing up there. There was snow on the trail, so I'm a hypocrite. I said never snows, but there was snow this day, and he did it right. That was a pretty memorable moment for me, just more as a proud papa to see him push and deal with that adversity and do it. So that was really cool.
Hey, on the Trailblazing Texas podcast, we get sappy. I've already cried twice on the podcast.
Oh man, I'm a crybaby. People that know me, it's not crying. You're leaking awesome. That's what I was told.
That's right. And yeah, so I get emotional. No shame at all. So yeah, those are great answers to that last question.
Oh, thank you. I had a lot of fun. This is fun. I'm kind of sad it's over. This was you're
Hey,
super cool to talk to.
you're always welcome back. We're putting together panels to talk about hiking and stuff. So I'll definitely keep you included. And no, I've enjoyed it. And I was just going to say, Dale, that Chuko Hiker, thank you so much. It's been a blast. Definitely next time I'm heading out to Guad, I'm gonna make a little detour and see if you can't introduce me to the Franklin Mountains.
Oh, that'd be pretty sweet.
And I am sorry for taking up 2 hours of your day, but again, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, definitely would love to have you back on the podcast. And again, just tell the listeners, YouTube, website, any kind of information that you want to share, because you have a wonderful platform, and we definitely want to support you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm gonna do a quick shout out if you don't mind to the
Absolutely.
Texas YouTube group that we meet because they're all super cool and just want to show them some support. Uh, and your listeners probably know about some. So we've mentioned Cameron already. He's awesome. I've mentioned Travis T. Super cool, chill. Guy named Eli, and you can see them all if you check out the YouTube videos at Chuco Hiker or these other channels. We'll pop up on each other's channels. Um, Tangent Trails, a guy named Jerry. He actually just did the Lone Star Hiking Trail not too long ago with Eli. And see, Blue Collar Backcountry. That dude is a riot. He is a
Yeah.
riot. If you watch his channel and you laugh, he's even funnier in person. Texas Hikeaholics, super, 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 super nice couple. Super nice. I just like hanging out with them. And then JNS Geezer Adventures. They're a pretty cool couple. That's their title, Geezer Adventures. They're just out there loving life. Age is just a number,
Nice.
right? They're out there
Yep.
kicking butt. Uh, Veggie Heather, that's the other one. Super nice lady based out of Austin. So these are all cool people I've met. This is now you through this. It's pretty crazy what you get a hair up your rear. That's what's the word, hairbrand idea or hair. I'm trying to remember I'm mixing my sayings up, but you start the podcast or we start a YouTube channel and you meet this cool community of people. It's
Yep.
pretty awesome. So thank you for letting me get that out there, and thank you for letting me be on the show and talk. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And again, thank you so much. We're into a little over 2 hours, and I know you're a father, family, very important to you, and I just feel privileged that you were able to spend this time with us.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh, I forgot her name. I can't forget her. Liz's Trails and Travels. She's also an amazing outdoors person. So just want to give a shout out. Super nice lady. Super nice lady.
Absolutely, absolutely. We always want to support our hiking community.
So thank you
All
for that.
right, Chuko Hiker. Once again, thank you, and look forward to keeping in contact and maybe one day sharing the trail together.
Yeah, I hope so. If you're out here, let's do it.
And that wraps up another exciting episode of the Trailblazing Texas podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode today, and stay tuned for our next episode where we will pick back up where we left off and guarantee to uncover many more hiking gems and share many more tips to enhance your experience on the trail. Until then, happy trails and happy hiking.